Let me apologize to everybody out there. Usually we do these things very, very smoothly. Tonight we did not. We've got some technical issues. So I'm not going to give you the long speech. I want you to hear from the workers themselves. Bottom line is you have some very courageous people out there who are in Colorado, who are standing up to a very powerful corporation, the Kroger supermarket, the largest supermarket chain in the country, owned by incredibly wealthy people. And these folks have gone out on a 10-day strike. And I want Kim Cordova to explain why they went out and what this strike is about. So Kim, say it again. I heard it, but I want everybody to hear what you had to say.
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to your audience. It is so important and critical that workers' voices are elevated and that we have an opportunity to share with the country that strikes work and that the Great Resignation is absolutely true, what's happening in this country. We're seeing workers organize and stand up to the worst type of corporate greed we've ever seen. You know, one thing with our grocery workers, first, let me go back and I'll introduce myself. I'm Kim Cordova, the president of United Food and Commercial Workers Local 7. I represent essential grocery workers here in the state of Colorado and Wyoming. And we were just on a 10-day strike against Kroger stores here. 8,700 workers walked off the job to fight for the respect and protection and pay that essential grocery workers should have. Working for the largest grocery chain in the United States and in Colorado, they have the largest market share here in the state. Our essential grocery workers are heroes. When the pandemic started, their employer came out nationally and news. They were putting billboards up and running commercials stating that their workers were essential heroes. And what they did was, just weeks into the pandemic, they decided to treat them as a zero. These grocery stores have treated workers as fungible widgets, as sacrificial employees. And workers have said enough is enough. They are rethinking their relationship with their employer, and they voted to strike almost unanimously. We had strike votes of between 80 or 98% all the way to 100% of the workers voted to strike over the company's lack of respect, protection, and pay. And so we took the company on, the largest employer. These workers, I am so proud of them for standing up, not just for each other, but for themselves, and taking a stand for not just workers here, but setting the bar for workers across the country. Standing up to, the largest grocer that doesn't pay not just a livable wage, but a thriving wage. I mean, workers should not, one job should be enough, and that these big companies are paying such low wages that many of our members qualify for social services, or they're homeless, or suffer from food insecurity. And you know how hard it is to work in a grocery store when you don't have enough food to eat, or that you're living on the street knowing that the CEO and these big companies have made more money than they've ever made because of the pandemic. So while small businesses and restaurants were closed down, our grocery stores were open, and they have continued to make massive profits off of the backs of the workers. But instead of sharing that profit with their own employees, who are absolutely responsible for their success, they share their profits with Wall Street. That money doesn't come back to our communities. Our stores here for Kroger, this is a Cincinnati-based company. They purchased the existing stores, which were King Soopers and City Market here years ago. And our customers spend millions of dollars a week in those grocery stores, but yet they're not sharing that back with the community. They're not sharing their success with their very frontline essential heroes. Instead, that those profits go back to Wall Street. And their executives and their friends on Wall Street, just in the month of December, they received $1.5 billion worth of stock buybacks, while our members are homeless and workers don't have food. They don't have the safety and protection that the company should provide as an employer. So our workers said enough is enough, and we hit the streets. More than 8,700 workers walked off the job, and in masses, to take a stand and fight for what is right. and we won. I'm telling you, it made a difference. We've never seen such solidarity in my 37-year career with workers saying, I'm standing up for not just myself, but retirees, my community, and for future workers and for themselves. And it was amazing to see the power of the people. And I will tell you, one thing Kroger knows now is that their workers make the difference, that they are not successful without these frontline workers, and they need to share their success.
Kim, you mentioned something that needs, I think, a little bit more explanation. You talked about people who work for Kroger's, in some cases are homeless, in some cases are food insecure, don't have enough food to feed themselves and their family. How do you work full-time for a major corporation and end up out on the street or without enough food for yourself and your family? How does that happen?
Well, I mean, that my question's the same. I mean, the shameful fact that even Kroger, instead of paying a livable wage or addressing the food insecurity, they have a pantry. They put pantries in all of their stores so that workers fill it up. Workers that don't have enough food share what little food they have with each other. And that's shameful.
All right, let's stop. I want everybody to hear this. This is a major, very, very profitable corporation. How much does the CEO earn at this corporation? Do you remember?
It's millions of dollars. In fact, when they cut our hazard pay, he got a 21% or $21 million wage increase.
And within Kroger stores, they have pantries where employees are getting food contributed by other employees. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's disgusting and shameful. And it's not healthy food. It's not fruit and vegetables. It's not protein. It's what little food somebody could share, like crackers and, a can of tomatoes or something like that.
But when you work for a living, you should not have to get any kind of food from charity. One would think you'd earn enough money. Now, Colorado, as I recall, is a pretty expensive state in which to live, isn't it? Rent is high.
Oh, we're in the top 4 in the whole United States. Our rent is as high as LA. And the cost of living hasn't kept up with or wages haven't kept up with the cost of living. And unfortunately, workers cannot even afford to live in the city or work in the city in which they live because rent is so high. And part of the problem is that some of the general public, they give the CEO a pass, right? They say it's okay for them to make that much money, even though that wealth isn't shared back to their frontline worker or to the communities that they serve. And that we need real change. And that's what this strike was about.
All right, let's go to our next panelist. Andres Becerril is a front-end supervisor for King Soopers at store number 10 in Aurora, Colorado. He is a member of Ufcw Local 7 and has worked for King Soopers for 11 years. Andres, thanks so much for being with us.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me. I guess I'm glad we went out as a worker. I'm glad that we got the strike vote and that everyone came out with me. I was a strike captain for the store that I pulled, and I had to go in, and we had that vote. And there's a difference between getting the vote and actually having coworkers come out of the store with you and saying enough is enough. And I was very grateful and thankful to all those people that came out with me that day.
Andres, in your judgment, why were workers so strong? Why did they feel so strong about the need to go out on strike?
Yeah, for me, I think everyone was strong about it. I think they were informed. I think it was weird working and having union talk kind of feel silenced, and the union did a really good job about trying to keep everybody informed and having everybody realize that you're not alone. You're not alone in your food insecurities. You're not alone in feeling underpaid and overworked. It's one of those things that the companies seem to try to, put down and make you not realize that everybody's in that same boat. And once you realize you're all in that same situation, you kind of realize like, oh, well, we all have the power together. We have the same struggle, which means we have, the momentum to have the same power to change that. And I think, we were all in agreement that it was time to change things. So we walked out.
Andres, how has COVID impacted the work environment in your grocery store?
Originally, when it hit, we went from just people selling milk and eggs to peacekeepers, and we were trying to have the social distancing thing in place, and just trying to stay sane at the same time. While people were coming to the grocery store because it was the only social thing you could do at the time, when everything was shut down, we had to keep working. We didn't get to go home and stay home and wait for this to blow over. We didn't get to start doing Zoom. You can't scan groceries on a Zoom call. We were there. We were on the front line, and that was scary.
Did some of the workers come down with COVID?
Yeah, plenty. We had conversations every few days that someone else had gotten it. Or you would realize somebody was missing, for over a week, and then 2 weeks, and you're like, oh, well, I wonder where they went, and you kind of piece it together real quick. And that was scary. You never knew, who was going to come back or not. Sometimes you heard people getting real sick and being gone for 3-4 weeks and hoping that they were going to come back okay. And, some people didn't, obviously, and that was tough. But I think at the end of it all, being a grocery worker in a store and seeing your coworkers come down with it and then come back and living through all that with all of them, I think it really ended up creating more bonds, especially after we all walked out together.
Kim mentioned more, abusive language and misbehavior in the store for whatever reason. Are you seeing that where you work?
Well, I would say that there was a lot of, people had to decide, how they were going to explain things to us or how well they were going to. And I might have talked about it earlier with someone else, but, it was, everyone's just trying to get by. And unfortunately, the store managers have a job to do, and they weren't always going to be, they weren't always going to make things seem as serious as they were, I would say. So there was a lot of just trying to keep everyone afloat. And usually that was by just trying to downplay everything.
And you guys have been out for 10 days now. What's the morale of your fellow employees?
Well, once we came to that tentative agreement, I think it was hope. I think we felt like we did something. We all went out together and we stayed out there together, and we proved our worth. Because those stores were empty, and we proved how much the community actually does care about us, and we're not as replaceable as we were made to think and feel, and that felt great, having the community support.
Okay, Andres, thanks very much. Our next panelist is Liz Wesley, also with UFCW Local 7. Liz is a floral manager at King Soopers number 130 in Colorado Springs, Colorado. She is a member of UFCW Local 7 and has worked in her position for 17 years. Liz, thanks very much for being with us.
Hi, and thanks for having me.
So what is your perception of what's going on, why people went out on strike, how people are feeling, the attitude of the company? What do you think?
Well, when I started with this company 17 years ago, it was a really good job, and I felt very blessed to have it. I was a single mom of 2 kids. 11 years ago, I was able to purchase my own home for me and my kids on my salary that I made at King Soopers. And during the last 10 years, I've seen the cost of living continue to rise in Colorado, and my income just not keep up. Utilities are more, food is more, and that's really been exaggerated in the last couple of years since COVID. Obviously, we see everything has gotten super expensive, and forget about doing any kind of home improvements because everything has gone up, but our pay. So, and in turn with I've also seen a turnover in employees, because this job that I was so proud to have and that provided for me Now people coming in the last couple of years aren't seeing that future with the company anymore, so the turnover has been tremendous and the workload has been more. So I'm really hopeful that with us taking a stand together and getting a good agreement for, all of us that work, in King Soopers, that we're going to see a renewed faith and that people will want to stay in these jobs, that they will see their own value, that they now see their value having stood together as one and hopefully made a difference for, everyone that we work with. Because, we are valuable. We do provide a very important service, and our customers have really stood behind us and let us know how important we are in the communities. We're so thankful for the customer support out there, that they've really been behind us. And, we're hoping that Kroger realizes that too, that, you're going to lose your customers if you lose these employees. It's a vicious cycle. So you have to invest in these people, to invest in your company, to invest in continuing to be successful, because we are that success.
Liz, did you perceive that some of your workers just were angry that at a time when the company was doing really, really well? During the pandemic, as I understand it, profits soared.
Oh, absolutely. So, like Kim had said in the beginning, when, Kroger initiated the hero pay for us, and then quickly 6 weeks in took that away, but gave the CEO, his $22 million bonus. It was a slap in the face. And we were still out there working, and we were still out there putting our lives out there every day to serve these communities. And when contract time came around, I really think it hurt a lot of us to see what they really thought of us. And thank God that we have a strong union and we have strong union leadership, and that we were able to put together this fight. And it was just amazing, the bravery and the conviction that all of my brothers and sisters have to get out there in the snow, in the sleet, in the freezing, in the dark, and stand together and know that we were making a difference, was tremendous. It was really something wonderful to be a part of.
Let me ask anybody, Kim, Andres, Liz, what is it like, working in a grocery store, supermarket, in the midst of a pandemic is not, I suspect, easy work. What's it like working in a store nowadays? Who wants to describe that?
I'll take a shot at that, Senator. I could tell you that grocery workers work during any man-made or natural disasters. So we're open 7 days a week. It doesn't matter if there's floods, fire, earthquakes, riots, social unrest, or a pandemic. But what happened during COVID is, between panic shopping, the frustration of small businesses shut down, people unemployed, the grocery stores became a central place for people to come and congregate. So you started to see this panic shopping or buying with, like, the toilet paper phenomenon. And so customers have become very frustrated, and it's not a supply chain issue where you see empty shelves. It's been a worker shortage, with workers saying, rethinking their relationship with their employer. You've seen the frustration from customers where there's product or not enough workers. You've seen a lot of these jobs be automated with self-checkout. So our poor workers have become they've suffered the brunt of the consumer's frustration. And then you mix in the political aspect of the mask or vaccines, right? And so our workers have been spit on, slapped, pushed, beat up, attacked. And this has been well documented. If our workers want to be protected and ask a customer to wear a mask, they've been physically or verbally assaulted, coughed on, spit on, purposely exposed with COVID. And instead of protecting an essential worker, the company just, turned their eye to it and put profit over people. And unfortunately, we've had thousands of workers get COVID, and we've had workers die. And so, that happened. It's been a horrible experience. And so even though the companies have done very well due to COVID. They're making money not just because of the services that they provide, and that they're the businesses that have stayed open during these shutdowns, but they're making money off of COVID in general. They get administration fees from the administering the vaccines, and then they're selling the COVID test. And so they've done great with COVID. They've done very well through the pandemic. But our workers, they haven't done great. You know what they got? They got COVID. They got beat up. They got overworked to the point where these poor workers have done more work than they've ever had to. And they're doing all of the heavy lift. So it's been really hard for these essential workers. It's been tough.
Kim, can I ask you, I don't know if it's public knowledge or not, what was the initial offer that Kroger's made to the union? Is that something you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was all concessionary. Instead of it was concessions. So the company came to the table, instead of taking the opportunity to be a leader in the industry. They're the number one chain in the country. And you would think that they would want to lead in wages and benefits and in work environment. Instead, they just led to the race to the bottom. So they came to the table and they proposed taking away overtime pay, taking away, their daily overtime, taking away their path to full time. It was all concessionary. So when Liz and Andreas talk about the lack of respect for the essential job that they do, and they've made so much money, any concession was unwarranted. And I will tell you, that set the tone for negotiations. And I was really disappointed.
So here you have, with workers getting sick, some dying, many being abused as a result of COVID, the company making enormous profits, as I understand it, giving a huge bonus to its CEO, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And they came in with a contract that asked you to make less than you previously were making. Is that the initial offer?
Yes, the audacity for them to come to the table and ask for a single concession. It was absolutely unwarranted.
Let me ask Liz or Andres, how did workers respond to an offer which asked them to give back benefits in the midst of all of this? How did people feel about that?
I'll take that. We were horrified. I mean, the fact that they wanted to take away our overtime, cut our sick hours, what else? Just meager rate. Initial proposal was meager raises and take away protections that we have in our contract was just obscene of them to even put that out there, to think that we would even consider anything like that. And then they would come behind the backs and have the managers and district managers in the stores trying to sell us a contract when we have our bargaining committee and our union fighting for us. And so they were only showing us pieces of it in the store, the pieces that they wanted us to see, and then telling us that, oh, this is a good deal and you guys should take it. But we're not stupid. I mean, we are grocery workers, but we're intelligent, human beings, and we make a living and we support ourselves, and we know when something is not a good deal. The fact that they would offer something lesser to us and expect that we would think that that's a good deal because they put a little bonus on top of it is just ridiculous.
I would assume, Liz, that the last offer was a little bit better than their initial offer.
They had improved on some things, but they still weren't listening really to what the workers were telling them, what our concerns were in the store. And maybe Andreas can address that too as well. Because we did want some safety protocols put in place. We have been assaulted in the stores. I've had a guy with a machete run straight through my department, threatening people. No one got hurt in that incident, but certainly it's been in national news that workers in Colorado have been hurt, and we had the Boulder shooting. It is a real threat, and it is a real worry for people in the stores.
Andres, what does being in a union mean? I mean, a lot of people who are watching this may not know a whole lot about unions, why they are important. What has been what has been being in a union meant to you and to your coworkers during these last several weeks?
For me, I realized how much protection you have with the union. You're not alone. You're never alone when you're in a union. There's always resources and there's always people you can go talk to outside of the company that also have, they have knowledge of the workings of the contract, and having that actually be supplied to you, having a quick link to it, whether it be a rep or a steward in the store, is very beneficial. And I think honestly, before all this happened, I wasn't too hip to it. And now that I've lived it, I really do feel like, and now that not just me, but all the other workers too, we all lived it because we were all out on that strike, on that picket line. I think a lot of people really woke up to how beneficial and how strong a union can be again, and I think we're just going to see more of that, not just within, Kroger, but everywhere, anywhere that's unionized or anybody that wants to be unionized. They're seeing the power of, of a union and of a strike and the support the rest of the world has for them. And, I think it's just going to get better.
Let me ask anybody, how has the community responded to the strike? Have they been supportive, not supportive? What's been the attitude of people around in the neighborhoods throughout the state?
The support has been overwhelming, Senator. I mean, our community knows we were there for them. And not only that, the work that we do in the grocery stores are so important. Think about it. We make somebody's child's first birthday cake. Liz, floral managers, they make somebody's wedding bouquet or somebody's, their corsages for prom. We set the table for our community. We sell the food and resources that our neighbors, our families, our friends, the community in Colorado and around the country. Grocery workers are absolutely essential. But we have a bond and a relationship. And in some cases, grocery workers are the only human connection that some of our customers have. Some people don't have families. Some people don't have loved ones that live there. And they come to the stores sometimes just to talk to us, or also to share recipes, or to come in and like I said, we do weddings and bar mitzvahs and funerals, and we have a connection with the workers. I mean, with the customers, because we are part of the community that these giant businesses
a few
serve.
minutes ago, which was interesting, in the heart of the pandemic, when a lot of businesses were shut down, you guys were open, and that was one of the places where people could actually congregate.
Yes.
It became a meeting place of sorts, huh?
Yes, and I mean, think about it. We're responsible. Like I said, we make your child's first birthday cake. There's nothing more important than your wedding cake, or your tray for your Super Bowl party, or where you get your food source. I mean, we're critical to the food supply chain in this country, and these used to be the middle class wage earners working in these stores. But until we start to see our labor laws be stripped apart, right, or OSHA be dismantled and defunded, we've seen a decline in that. And so we need real change in this country. But grocery workers are absolutely essential to our economy and to our food supply chain.
Well, we thank you, very much as grocery store workers. You guys are there. Last I heard, most of us need to eat to stay alive.
We do.
And you're the place that millions and millions of people go to get their food. Art, I'm out of questions. Is there anything that we didn't go over? How are you feeling about the contract where it stands right now? You feeling good about it, Kim, or?
I am. It was recommended by the committee, and workers are voting today and around the state of Colorado. I do believe that what we did here in Colorado, it worked. Strikes absolutely work. It shows the company that they can't run without workers. It shows that where the real power is with the people. And we're hoping that we set the bar so that other workers in this country follow suit, and that when enough is enough, they stand up and they take a stand for equity, for each other, for a fair wage, for health care, for paid leave. We need to stop the work while sick culture in this country. We've seen what COVID did when it ravaged these places of employment where workers were forced to go to work sick. These are the changes in this country so that everybody has an opportunity for the American dream, right? The CEOs get their dream vacations, their dream houses. They get the American dream off of our backs. And it's time for workers to stand up for their piece of the American dream. We shouldn't have two Americas in this country, the land of opportunity, right? Everybody should have the opportunity to make a livable wage and to work with dignity and respect, and to have a safe work environment. These strikes are going to change our country. And in Colorado, we were happy to take on that company and make the change that we needed.
Liz, any other thoughts you want to share with our viewers?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, for me, this was my first experience being part of a strike. And I've been a union member for 17 years. And it really was something to see when you've reached a point that, you just, enough is enough. And if this is the only way that we are going to be heard and listened to, and then to see it actually take place and actually work and actually make a difference, and bring the company back to the table to listen to our concerns. It was just a wonderful experience. I hope that this, encourages more places to unionize when they see what the power of a union can do when you do stand together and fight for your rights. I think there's a tremendous resurgence of that in our country, and I think we need more of it.
Andres, any thoughts?
No, just thank you to the community, to the state of Colorado and all the people that didn't cross the picket line. I know all of them also work and had to shop somewhere else, and I know that it's not great almost anywhere right now. So whenever they get the chance to stand up for themselves, I can't wait to pay it forward.
Well, let me just, in a sense, recapitulate what all of you have said. And that is, we are living in a very difficult moment in American history. This COVID has wreaked havoc on everybody's lives. So many people have gotten sick, people have died, people have not been able to go to work, kids have not been able to go to school, grandparents have not been able to see their grandchildren. It has been a horrible, horrible time. But what is happening is, I think all of you have indicated, is that in the midst of all of this, working people have said, you know what? We are human beings. We're entitled to be treated with respect and dignity, especially when we're putting our lives out on the line. When all over this country, not just in grocery stores, but in public transportation, in healthcare, people are dying because they are contracting COVID on their jobs. And I think what you're seeing, and all of you have made this point, is that people are saying enough is enough. And we're seeing people taking on enormously powerful corporations. You're taking on a big time operation, right? A multi-billion-dollar corporation with unlimited resources. And as I understand it, Kim just said they came to you with a disgraceful initial offer, an insulting offer. And workers said, thanks, but no thanks. They went out on strike for 10 days. People in Colorado said, you know what, we're going to stand with the workers. We're not going to go into that grocery store. And maybe the company got the message and came back with a lot better contract. And what you're doing, and what other striking workers, we're dealing, as I mentioned earlier, with women who are on strike in Los Angeles, coal miners who are on strike in Alabama, workers in specialty metal in West Virginia, same thing. People taking on powerful special interests companies that have billions of dollars in assets. And they're standing up and they are fighting back with incredible courage. And we're seeing that all over this country. So I want to thank all of you for being an inspiration for working people all across this country. And I think of all of you, I said, if and when you win this strike, people are going to say, you know what? When we get united, when we join a union, when we're prepared to negotiate for real benefits, we can win this thing. And that's the role that you guys are playing nationally. You're inspiring a whole lot of people. And I thank you very, very much for that. And I thank you for being with us this evening and look forward to continue working with you. So thank you all very much.
Thank you,
And,
Senator. We appreciate you helping us amplify workers' voices around this country. And we absolutely appreciate your support. It has been, we'll never forget it. I promise you that. Our workers are very grateful for it. Thank you again.
Well, thank you all. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Take care.
Good night.